Hi, I'm Emily. About 15 years ago in a medium-sized American city, life seemed almost perfect. I was married to Michael, a charming man, and we had a beautiful daughter named Sophie, but beneath this happy surface, my world was about to fall apart. One evening, Michael came home looking different. His usual warmth was gone, and he seemed cold and distant. He said, "Emily, we need to talk," avoiding my gaze. Then he told me he had filed for divorce. I was shocked. Divorce? Michael, what are you talking about? Is this some kind of joke? But it wasn't a joke. He explained that his mother, Elizabeth, had influenced his decision. She never liked me and believed I was too much for her own daughter. She convinced Michael that I didn't belong in their family. As I tried to understand this betrayal, things got even worse. Elizabeth had created a plan to make sure I would lose not only my husband but also my daughter. They accused me of stealing a large sum of money from the family business. I remember sitting in the lawyer's office, feeling crushed. "Mrs. Emily, the evidence against you is strong," the lawyer said. "It will be hard to prove you're innocent." "But I didn't do it. They're lying," I argued. Despite my protests, the legal system seemed to be against me. Elizabeth's power and money were overwhelming. In court, Michael sat next to her, like a shadow under her control. My lawyer said passionately, "Your Honor, my client is clearly innocent. The accusations are false and based on personal grudges." But Elizabeth's lawyer was clever. "The evidence speaks for itself," he countered. "It's clear that Emily is not only a thief but also an unfit mother." The judge's gavel hit the stand, and the sound echoed in my breaking heart. Custody of Sophie was given to Michael. I saw the smug look on Elizabeth's face as the decision was read. After the court session, I went to Michael, begging, "Please, Michael, don't do this. Sophie needs her mother." But he didn't care. "It's for the best. Emily, you're not who I thought you were," he said coldly. I went back to an empty home, with silence reminding me of Sophie's absence. The walls still echoed with her laughter, making the loss even more painful. Over the next few weeks, I kept trying to reach out, but Michael and Elizabeth made sure I had no contact with Sophie. Every missed visit, every ignored call, felt like a knife twisting deeper into my heart. In the midst of this darkness, I made a promise to myself. They had taken my family and tried to ruin my name, but I wouldn't let them break my spirit. I decided to start over, to create a life Sophie could be proud of if she ever learned the truth. So, I packed my bags, left behind everything I knew, and moved to a new city. It was time to turn the page and start a new chapter in my life. Little did I know, the future would bring surprises and twists I couldn't have imagined. Moving to the new city felt like stepping into a whole new world. I was determined to rebuild my life, not just for myself, but for Sophie. I started a small business, pouring all my heart and effort into it. Slowly, it began to grow, and so did my confidence. During this time, I met Jack, a single father with a heart as big as his smile. One evening, while walking through a busy street market, he said, "Emily, you have an incredible strength. It's really inspiring." I smiled, feeling warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. "Thanks, Jack. Life has thrown a lot at me, but I keep going," I replied. As we spent more time together, our relationship grew stronger. We decided to blend our families. Jack had a son, Lucas, and a daughter, Emma, who quickly became as dear to me as my own Sophie. One day, while we were all having dinner, Lucas asked, "Mom, why doesn't Sophie ever visit? Don't you miss her?" Tears filled my eyes. "Of course I do, Lucas, more than anything, but sometimes things are complicated." Jack squeezed my hand under the table, offering silent support. Despite the love and happiness in our new family, a part of me always ached for Sophie. I tried reaching out, sending letters and gifts, but they were always returned unopened. Michael and Elizabeth had filled Sophie's head with lies about me. They told her I had built my business with stolen money and that I was someone to be ashamed of. One day, I received a letter from Sophie. My heart leaped with hope, but as I read her words, my world fell apart again. "Emily, I don't want anything to do with you. Dad and Grandma told me everything. You're a thief and a liar," she wrote. I broke down, the pain of her words unbearable. Jack found me crying in our bedroom. "Emily, what's wrong?" he asked, concerned. "It's Sophie. She hates me, Jack. She believes all their lies." Jack held me close. "We'll get through this. Emily, you're not alone anymore." As the years went by, our family grew stronger, and my business became a successful company. We moved into a larger home, and our lives were filled with love and laughter. But I never stopped missing Sophie. I often watched the kids play in the backyard, wondering what Sophie was like now. Was she happy? Did she ever think of me? "You've built something amazing here," Jack said to me one evening as we sat on the porch, watching the sunset. "I just wish Sophie could see this." I nodded, a tear rolling down my cheek. "Me too, Jack, me too." Little did I know, the truth about my past was about to come out in a way I never expected. Years passed, and my small startup had grown into a thriving business. I had become a well-known entrepreneur, but my heart still ached for Sophie. Meanwhile, Sophie had grown into a smart and independent young woman attending university. Although we were still estranged, I kept track of her achievements from afar and felt proud of her accomplishments. One day at the university, Sophie overheard a conversation that changed everything. Hidden behind the library shelves, she listened as Michael and Elizabeth spoke. "I can't believe how easy it was to fool everyone, especially Emily," Elizabeth gloated. "Framing her for theft was the best thing we ever did." Michael smirked and replied, "Yeah, and the best part is Sophie still believes every lie we told her about her mother." Sophie felt the ground slip beneath her. Shock, anger, and betrayal rushed through her as she realized how they had deceived her. Later that day, she confronted them. "How could you lie to me all these years? You made me hate my own mother." Michael tried to explain, but Sophie wouldn't listen. "I don't want to hear your excuses. I need to find out the truth for myself." Sophie stormed out, her heart heavy and her mind full of questions. Later, she reached out to me. I was in my office when I got her call. "Mom, it's Sophie, can we meet? I need to talk to you," she said, her voice trembling. My heart skipped a beat. "Of course, Sophie, anytime." We met at a quiet cafe the next day. The moment I saw her, all the years of pain and longing rushed back. She looked so much like the little girl I remembered, but she was all grown up. "Sophie, I've missed you so much," I said, my voice full of emotion. "Mom, I heard Grandma and Dad talking. They lied to me about everything," Sophie admitted, her eyes filling with tears. I reached for her hand. "I know, Sophie, I've waited every day to tell you the truth." We talked for hours, sharing our pain and clearing up misunderstandings. Sophie was filled with regret. "I'm so sorry, Mom, I should have known better. Can you ever forgive me?" Tears ran down my face as I hugged her. "There's nothing to forgive, Sophie, you're my daughter, and I love you no matter what." Reconnecting with Sophie felt like finding a missing piece of my soul. She started spending more time with me, Jack, and her half-siblings, fitting in like the final piece of a puzzle. One evening, while we were having dinner, Sophie looked around and said, "I never knew what a real family felt like until now. I'm so grateful to be here." Jack smiled warmly at her. "You've always been part of this family, Sophie. We're just happy you're here with us now." As I watched my family laugh and talk, a sense of peace washed over me. All the years of struggle and pain had led to this moment of joy and reconciliation, but I knew our story wasn't over. The truth about Michael and Elizabeth's lies had been revealed, and it was time for justice. In the courtroom, tension filled the air as Sophie took the stand. It was time to confront the years of deception. "Can you tell the court what you heard on the day in question?" the prosecutor asked. Sophie's voice was calm, but I could see the pain in her eyes. "I overheard my grandmother, Elizabeth, and my father, Michael, bragging about framing my mother for a crime she didn't commit. They did it to keep me away from her," she testified. The courtroom gasped in shock. Michael and Elizabeth sat still, their faces pale. The prosecutor continued, "And how did this make you feel?" "Betrayed, angry. I've been lied to my whole life," Sophie replied. Michael's lawyer tried to challenge Sophie's testimony, but the truth was undeniable. The judge's gavel came down with force, declaring Michael and Elizabeth guilty. They were led away, and when Michael's eyes met mine, there was no regret, only quiet acceptance of his fate. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as the judge gave the sentences. Elizabeth would serve time for conspiracy and perjury, while Michael was sentenced for his role in the false accusations. Outside the courtroom, Sophie hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry, Mom, for everything." I hugged her back, feeling a chapter of our lives close. "It's over now, Sophie, we can finally heal." When we got home, Jack and the kids had prepared a small celebration. A banner read "Justice and Joy." As we gathered around the table, laughter and chatter filled the room. Jack raised his glass and said, "To Emily, a woman of incredible strength and love, and to our family, united and strong." I looked around at the smiling faces of my children, Sophie, Lucas, and Emma, and felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been long and full of pain, but we had come out stronger. Later that evening, as the kids played in the backyard, Sophie and I sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Mom, I can't change the past, but I promise to make up for it every day," Sophie said, holding my hand. I gently squeezed her hand back. You've already made me so proud, Sophie. We have our whole future ahead of us. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over our home, I realized this wasn't just a victory in court. It was a triumph of love, resilience, and the strength of family. And that's the end of my story, a journey from betrayal to justice and, finally, to love and unity. As we close this chapter, I want to leave you with a question. In this story, Sophie grew up believing lies about her mother, Emily, and only discovered the truth as an adult. If you were in Sophie's shoes, realizing you'd been misled about a parent your entire life, would you be able to forgive and rebuild the relationship? Or would the betrayal be too deep to overcome? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories. Your support means the world.